most important thing is you're here today, and we want to talk to you about what you're doing in your business.
We can come back to our debate.
We can go back to that another time.
I mean,
I don't want you to be here, and we don't know what you are doing to celebrate.
Right,
you.
but it's important. It's important to sometimes shed light on the past to understand how to go forward.
Of course.
And you're perfectly right. So guys, so all about Derek Clement. So Derek Clement has been in the industry for over 40 years. And there's nothing I haven't done. I was trained in London School of Fashion. I was trained in Hounslow Borough College, and simultaneously I was trained at Splinters International as a young apprentice, right up to owning my own shop in Maida Vale. I bought my first shop in Maida Vale in 1983 for practically £500,000. Then I had a shop in Lewisham at the time. It's called Noir, and I also collaborated with a Nigerian sister in Mayfair and Park Lane. Shop was called Jades of Mayfair. So we did lots and lots and lots and lots. As per usual, there was something about going back home that was in the corner of my mind. Because if you remember back in the day, we had the Thatcher years. Black people, like today, were feeling very insecure, very uncertain about the future in the UK. So I packed up my bag, sold my shops, and went back to the Caribbean. I went back to Grenada. I opened 4 shops, and I opened a school, an academy. And I trained lots of young people throughout the Caribbean, Trinidad, Antigua, Jamaica, Barbados, blah, blah, blah. And it's interesting, after a little while, I took my family back. My children went to, my elder kids went back to school in the Caribbean. So much so that my biggest daughter now, she's in the islands working for the medical school. She's a journalist. So it was quite a great move. And I still have that urge to go back. So I went back to the Caribbean and opened the shops. Having done that, did that, and then sold up shops and went to the United States. I went.
So you sold up. So you sold up over in the Caribbean and then moved everything over to.
That's right. That's right. Once the kids was grown, they came back to London. I went to the States. Did about almost 10, 15 years in the States. I had to go to the States because, of course, that's where you hear about America, you hear about Hollywood, you hear about New York, and I had to go to the States, and I went to the States. And I have to confess, I needed to go to the States because what I learned from the American is that in America, right, unlike Britain in those days, the average black woman expects you as a stylist to own your own product. You must have your own product. So as I do the hair, it was like, what's up, D? You got your own products, you got your own shampoo. And I'm thinking, well, and that's how, if you like, in 2000, my daughter's born 2009, 2008, up to 2011, I remember I got the hustle spirit in terms of branding myself. So the whole thing began in the States, and I came back to London in 2011, 2012, and there it really, the whole idea of the product range took off. So now the emphasis right now is more on manufacturing rather than hairdressing, though I still do hairdressing. I'm still a hairdresser. We have an academy. We have an interesting thing called Must, that I'll talk to you about later on. So the emphasis right now for me and my business partner and I, Rudy Page, is all about manufacturing. So we continue in the legacy. We believe that the baton has been passed on to us by Dyke and Dryden and Splinters. So we're going to carry the baton on and pass it on again later on when the time is right. So that's what we do now. We're manufacturing, and we are shedding light on what we do. We provide expert advice, information, guidance, and support, and tips to the community with regards to hair growth and hair health.
Wow, that is extensive. Now, even within that, you still have left out some of the bits where, as a stylist, because how long have you been doing the stylist? Because as you said, you're now onto the manufacturing, but you seem to have come back to what you love. Because when I watch your videos, you're very passionate about what you are doing, and your client, you can tell that they are totally confident in what you say and how you deliver. So I commend you for that, but I want to know, how do you maintain the two? Because, seeing you on a train going to drop something to someone, for me, that was like, whoa, this man has time to do that.
Listen.
That's about passion.
Listen, and that is an old template. The house to house. All the people I mentioned to you before, the Common Cottrell, the Joe
Yeah.
Jackson, all these guys, Madam C.J. Walker did that. You know, the house to house, and the services. Now I still do hairdressing. I can't not do hairdressing. And obviously, I combine the two together. Obviously, if I'm going to do a cut, I would have to now support the cut with great products. It just makes sense to marry the two together. And not just that, but also passing on my skills. So if you see me do the haircut, it's passing on my skills to other younger hairdressers. Because we were, in our generation, you could argue, the pioneers of the haircut. Unfortunately, most hairdressers don't do haircuts. Most hairdressers are great stylists. But the cutting really came at a time when Splinters would have been one of the revolutionary companies that actually cut hair and Afro hair very well.
May I?
Please.
What is the difference between a cut and a stylist? What's the difference? Me not have no cut.
Right. If you remember, and if you remember, there was a time when the black women straightened the hair. Now, don't get me wrong. I support all aspects of Afro hair. So we support bald, we support braid, we support lock, we support afros, we support weaves and wigs, wraps, coil and straightened hair. Now, there was a time when the sisters had their hair straightened, which was trending at the time back in 70s, 80s and so on. And what the sisters wanted is to make ensure that the hair moved. We call the shape, balance and movement. Now there's a difference between a.
I agree with you. I know nothing right now. You're in a different territory for me right now.
The reason being is because obviously watching the American programs and American sisters, you know what I mean? Their heads flowing,
bouncy and moving around.
How are they getting that? You know, but that was something to be, to behold. So,
but I have to say that the British hairdressers were by far more in terms of, because of the Sassoon connection, because London is really the center of the universe when it comes to cutting hair. Some of the greatest haircutters comes from England. Remember, you got the Sassoon, you got the Rosk, you got the Tillman guys. And some of the greatest black hairdressers work for white establishment, right? You know who they are. Okay. Great names. They're brilliant, right? And you can't touch those guys for cutting European hair. Likewise, we are the pioneers for cutting Afro hair, because the sisters wanted the hair to move, to bounce, and to have shape, right? And those are the three elements of a good haircut: shape, balance, and movement. Now, the difference with a West End salon in those days, if you went to a local salon, the hair would have been, you should know this, my darling, the hair would have been stiff and lacquered, right? And not moving, just sprayed and lacquered and stiff. But when it came to Splinters, they had that haircut, that geometric bob, that asymmetric, right? You see, the sisters was bouncing. And if you think about it, many sisters wanted their hair to move like a white girl. Now listen to me carefully. It is white women who misappropriated Afro hair, right? So the sisters wasn't trying to be like them. The sisters were trying to be them, because you have to remember, Afro hair are the genesis of all hair type. The bob, the bob came from from black people. It was black people who invented the bob. So that whole shape thing that you see Mary Quant.
Well, it's in the Egyptian hieroglyphics.
There you are. So when a sister wears her hair straight and she wears her hair in a bob, she's not trying to be anything else but herself. You have to, because there seems to be often issues with brothers saying to the sisters, "Are you trying to be white?" Hell, bloody no. Sorry, but hell no. Black women are just being themselves always. They're not trying to.
I think you need to repeat that again. Black women are just trying to be,
well, themselves, because of course it's in the DNA. They remember their ancestors and what they did. So when a sister wears a wig, she's not trying to be like anybody else. When she wears a weave, she's not trying to be like everybody else. That is her. That's hers. She created the weave and the wig, right? She created weave and wigs. When she wears a hair condition, when she conditions her hair and she moisturizes her hair, Madam C.J. Walker invented the conditioner, right? A brother called Augustus Morgan Garrett, he invented the relaxer. So we are constantly changing the narrative, changing the game for us, by us, for us.
And the straightener comb. I can't remember who invented the straightening comb, the one that you put on the fire.
Well, the pressing comb was
The
actually
hot
the
comb,
pressing comb was
yeah.
invented by a French geezer, but Madam C.J. Walker popularized it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. There you go.
And I think that's the thing, isn't it? And I'm glad that you're here to kind of celebrate exactly what it is us black women, do. And to a certain degree as well, I think there's a kind of misconception between black women anyway when
Yes.
it comes to the weaves and wearing
That's
hair
because
straight
we
and the
don't know.
relaxers.
We don't have a man like that to just tell us
Exactly.
straight.
So that's
this
why
is revolutionary.
We applaud you.
Up until this moment
Yeah.
here, I didn't put two and two together.
Yeah, because a lot of us women think, it's just so that we can get by at work. In the workplace, it's more acceptable and so on. And now, obviously, there was this great sway movement, for natural hair. But as you quite rightly said, and it kind of in a way brings us back to what